Welcome to Gracefully Imperfect, a podcast for the all-encompassing Black man, the professional, the entrepreneur, the student, the family man, the father, and the everyday survivor. I'm your host, Semantic 7. And on this journey together, we will discuss all things related to fatherhood and parenting, morality and ethics, striving to become mentally healthy, our role within our households and our family, health and fitness, and I dare not to forget, there will be a lot of sharing of our personal developmental stories that have shaped us to who we are today. So let's go on this journey together and center our consciousness, relax our mind, off we go to the depths below. Love, peace, blessings, and abundance to all of you who are tuning in from your respective locations, here and far, far and wide. Doesn't matter where you are in space and time. So grateful, so thankful that you have chosen this podcast out of the thousands of podcasts on your listening device and on the listening platform that you choose. It is an honor and a privilege to host another week on this podcast. In particular, today is Poetic Prose Monday. So for all those who are new to the podcast and don't know what Poetic Prose is all about, this is the time where we pay our homage, respect, deep admiration, and appreciation for one of the oldest forms of creative expression, poetry. And we do it in a manner to reflect the times. That's what Nina Simone said in the interview. An artist's responsibility is to reflect their times. And that's what Poetic Prose Monday is all about. Using the experiences, the observations, the reflections, the crisis, the chaos, the existential conditions that we cannot run from as humans and greater mankind. And we make it make sense. We formulate it and package it in a creative way to make it make sense, to create an outlet that can guide self-awareness, knowledge, understanding, insight. And from that, I hope that something resonates with you that can fill your spirit, fuel your inspiration, guide your hand, influence the way you influence your thinking and thought processes and the way that you look at relationships, show up in relationships, and maintain and sustain those relationships. That is my hope. And that is the centrality to Poetic Prose Monday. So I had a beautiful, beautiful series of conversations with my cousin. Shout out to you, Young Dre. We talk all the time. We're very close. He He is my brother. He's my cousin. He's my best friend. He's my comrade. He is an emotional supporter. He's an intellectual supporter. He is my spiritual growth partner. And so we talk about a lot of different meaningful, deeply rooted issues, concerns, and we share nuggets of information and wisdom with each other just about every day. My cousin is going through the spiritual development phase where he is reflecting very intensely on clarity. He has created artistic projects centered around the clearness, awakening the clearness in his spirit, being able to see things clearly, being able to filter and sift through the misinformation and disinformation. And that has brought him solace. It has provided him a level of groundedness that is fueling his creative thinking processes and his creative judgment. And so as I was talking to him just the other day, I said, you know what? All this talk about clearness and clarity makes me want to sit and reflect and identify what it means to me in my world and how I can translate this to another Black family. I found myself listening to a Malcolm X speech. For all those who don't know, I am a huge follower of Malcolm X, among other Black revolutionaries. And I've listened to this speech before, By Any Means Necessary, in 1965. And as I was reading it, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking of clarity, clearness, being able to clearly understand things and see things for what they are, and then using that appropriately. I noticed that in some of the excerpts within the speech, that other people who were influenced, inspired, and motivated by Malcolm X's diligence, fearlessness, high character, and commitment to the liberation of Afro Americans, that this speech served as a clarity anchor point for those who came after him. In particular, in the speech, Malcolm X says that we assert that in those areas where the government is either unable or unwilling to protect the lives and property of our people, that our people are within our rights to protect themselves by whatever means necessary. What is fascinating about that is, by knowing the history of the 60s, this speech came out in 1965. He delivered the speech in 65. Well, the Black Panther Party was founded and created in 1966 in Oakland. And their very first program was providing safeguarding, providing security, monitoring the activities of police coming into Black neighborhoods and Black communities and being a vanguard of self-preservation. That was their very first original program. So the two founding fathers of Black Panther Party found clarity and clearness in this speech, in Malcolm X professing the importance of our people protecting themselves from bigotry, violence, humiliation, and harassment. There was another piece within this speech that I found extremely intriguing. It is when he said, "Education is our passport to the future, for tomorrow belongs only to the people who prepare for it today." Now, I cannot pinpoint every single person who ever listened to this speech, but education success, academic success has greatly increased. There's a lot more educated Black women and Black men than there ever has been before. And I know we can go into the nitty-gritty of all the different variables and factors, social, economic considerations that go into accessibility and equity in education. The fact of the matter is that Malcolm X had a vision. For someone who wasn't educated himself, he possessed enough clarity to express and communicate the dire need of our people getting higher education, investing ourselves within a academic field that would give us the skills, the knowledge, the abilities, the expertise to forge our own business endeavors, to become more economically independent, so that we can eradicate the hundreds of years of being economically deprived. I found that extremely interesting. And the last thing that I want to share about this particular speech that inflamed this hunger of reflecting on clarity and clearness is that when Malcolm X gave this particular speech, this was after he, his wife, and his daughters experienced a bomb. I think it was one of those handmade bombs. I forgot what they were called. Thrown in his house. They burned down his house. The family was able to evacuate, but they lost all their material goods and possessions. And he gave this speech within a few days. He lost everything. And he still was able to channel the power, the strength, the wherewithal, the awareness to speak clearly to a people who have been marginalized, disenfranchised, treated insignificantly and unfairly. and who required some level of vision, purpose, and motivation to furnish a blueprint to improve self-efficacy. Now if that is not clarity and clearness, I don't know what else is. I wrote this poem about 6-7 months ago. And it was during the time that I wasn't quite fixated on the concept of clarity, being able to see things clearly, being able to express things lucidly. But I don't know exactly what motivated me to write it or inspired me to write it, but I wrote it. I wrote something about clarity. And as I was going through my poetry journal and I'm seeing if I need to write something for today or if I already had something on the shelf that has been unused, I found this one. And as I went through it, tweaked it a little bit, I started to realize why I wrote it. And this is a poem that I want to share with all of you. It is called A Resounding Voice of Clarity. Many faces, one voice, rolling eyes, contorted smiles, reacting to or against the civil liberties of pro-choice. Dark skies, faded whispers, this space is lonely, filled with misery. Laughter is non-existent, contentment is futile, and the concept of affection is all but just a distant memory. A social dichotomy engenders internal anger, stress, distress, and confusion. Wandering thoughts and uncharacteristic tendencies remind us of the implications of cultural and diversive fusion. Divisiveness is its own institution, constructed with the aims to polarize, isolate, and conquer, engulfing one's mind with thoughts of fluttering agitation and anticipation. To various degrees, everything is viewed with a critical and cynical lens, lacking the investment in wider perspective, pays little to no developmental dividends. A resounding voice of clarity. And so I wrote this poem back in December. So yeah, about 7 months. And I wrote this as I was thinking about how there's so many during this digital / information age, so many things pull our attention, tries to hook and grab our concentration and our focus. You can become very consumed by anything that you allow to consume your thoughts, your energy, and your focus. And as I was in that time, I was in a state of research, analysis, reflection, meditation, similar to what I am in today. However, during that time, I started feeling the overwhelming nature of getting frustrated with all of the inconsequential inconsequential chatter and the distractions. It's almost as if, and I know some of you probably have dealt with this before. If you go on a website, you're typing in some keywords on a web engine, and ads pop up. Or if you're scrolling on social media, which I'm not much of a social media person since I just started this professional Instagram, but the times that I was on it conducting research, there's so many competing priorities, so many conflicting narratives. When you're trying to find a trustworthy and reliable news source to understand the political, economic, social, global, business aspects of life, you can find yourself, and I have found myself reading things full of bias and misinformation. And that created a lot of frustration, created a lot of anger. And it made me think deeply about how much effort and intensity that it takes to fact check one thing. And if you don't fact check anything, you're getting so much information from different angles, from different voices, with different perspectives and different motives and agendas, to where then it bears the question, how do you digest? How do you sift and sort through a stockpile of stuff? And so as I reflect on that by being in a pensive state of mind, I started to realize that a lot of the major issues and the major concerns get overshadowed and diluted by peripheral stories and narratives. And it's very easy to get unfocused from what really matters the most. And I think what really matters the most is subjective and relative to how we all identify, what we prioritize, what's rooted in our values and belief system. And so when you have all these different things that are arousing suspicion, that are challenging moral code, ethical code, it can be it's very easy to turn your eye, attention, concentration, and energy to this misleading and misguiding thing. Writing this was extremely simplistic because I was in a state of frustration and I needed an outlet. I needed to get this out. And if I would have kept all of this in and just went about my day, it would have created more internal turmoil and potentially It would have created more guilt and resentment for not saying anything, for not expressing these intrusive thoughts that I was having about the current state of affairs. Once I finished this particular piece, I did not immediately feel a sense of relief and peace. This is an everyday occurrence. But what I did feel a sense of liberation, because now I'm able to put words to something that causes a disturbance in my life, in my way of conducting business. And I also really, really believe that it causes stress and concern for a lot of you. What I got from this is stay aligned with your values, your morals, your identity, and your community. And this is keeping it simple, stupid. Keeping it extremely simple. I'm not saying don't be eclectic in your taste and hunger for knowledge. But don't allow things that operate outside of your pursuits, your goals, your passions and your purpose to lead you astray. Because it will make you take a detour that will question your entire journey. I just want to take this time out too to just to say that we're all in this together. And all of us that have children, this is a problem that will rock their world too. So as we find clearness and clarity through chaos, destruction, misinformation, shadiness, skepticism, conspiracy, disenfranchised grief, social dichotomy. Once we find clearness and clarity through all of that, we will be able to be more attuned to our children as they grow up through the educational institution, create their own social connections and networks, and become involved in romance, develop a career in an occupational field. We will be able to assist them in staying grounded, staying focused, and not allowing every shiny object and every dangling fruit to lead them to a path of no return, or lead them off their path through a detour that who knows where the destination will take them. And so I want to leave you all with the quote of the day. I've been quoting Malcolm X all day today, and so it's only reasonable if I leave off with that. The quote of the day is, "We need more light about each other. Light creates understanding. Understanding creates love. Love creates patience, and patience creates unity. Thank you for sharing this space, this sacred, beautiful, loving space with me. I also say this with gratitude. I appreciate you all being your emotional, most vulnerable, and imperfect selves. I can't wait to have another conversation with all of you. And I cannot wait to share this space one more time. I talk to you when I talk to you. I see you when I see you. Peace and love, family.